Hi everyone, it's Reen from Embroidery Garden, and today I'm going to show you how to make these cute holiday trees that I designed completely in my design center on my Brother Dream machine. So to get started, I am doing these on my Dream machine, and I'm going to do them in my design center. So I'm going to go into my design center. Now, here's one of the trees. Here's a close-up of the tree. And when you design something in my design center, you got to give it a little bit of thought first about how you want something to look. I knew I wanted a simple tree shape. I knew I wanted it to be sturdy enough to stand up on its own. And, you know, I figured that I would use a dowel rod, something, again, to help it be sturdy, and so that it could go down into something. And I'll talk about this later on. But I want to get started and show you how I created this whole little tree in the hoop on my design center in my Brother Dream machine. So first, I've gone into my design center, and again, as I said, you have to kind of think about what you want it to do. And I wanted it to have a tack down stitch so that I could tack down a piece of Peltex. And then I needed the fill, and then I needed a stitch that would stitch the whole tree together. So in my design center, first I go into shapes, and I'm going to pick my hoop size. And this one that I'm going to do here today is going to be in the 5x7 hoop. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into shapes, and I saw this triangle, and that's what I'm going to use for my simple tree shape. Now, like I said, I wanted to do a tack down stitch, and I want to do the outline of the tree. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to size the tree first to my finished size. So my finished size, I want the tree to be, since I'm in the 5x7 hoop, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make the tree 4.95 inches wide. So let me get the width first, and that's the bottom number you can see changing. Go ahead and get it up to 4.95. Okay, and now I'm going to make it be 6.95 as the finished height. Okay, now for the pattern in the tree, I chose one of the decorative built-in quilting fills. So I'm going to go to the fill properties button, and if I click on this one, then I'm going to get a whole bunch of other fill properties will show up. And for this one, I think I chose, let's go back. It really doesn't matter which one you choose, but for this demonstration, I am just going to choose this one for right now. Click OK. I'm going to change the color to green. I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm going to fill in this shape. So I need to pick the little thing that looks like a little pitcher filling up. And then all I do is touch, and it fills it in. So that's going to be the fill, and then the outline, my finishing stitch to put the tree together. Now I want my tack down stitch. So I'm going to go back into shapes. I'm going to go back to the tree, the triangle, and I'm going to size it. And I want it to be smaller than the finished size because I didn't want the Peltex to be showing on the outside edge of the tree. So I thought about making it a total of a 1/2 inch all around smaller. So let me go into size, and first I'll do the width, and so it was 6.95 as the I'm sorry, it was 4.95 as the finished width of the tree. So now a 1/2 inch less would be 4.45. So go ahead and get that in. Okay, and now the height, I had a finished height of 6.95, so I'm going to make it 6.45. Whoops. I'm changing that top number up here to 6.45. Okay. Now, when you put a triangle inside of a triangle, let me zoom in here a little bit. You can see that it's a little bit more, there's more space down here than there is up here. So I'm just going to take that shape, I'm just moving it down a little bit to make it a little bit more even all the way around. And you can do that by zooming in. So I'm going to go back down, click OK. My tree is basically finished. So I'm going to hit next. Now in this area I can fine tune it and change some of the properties. So the first thing I'm going to do is it's showing me here what's selected, and it's the fill. This has an outline on. I don't want an outline on. I'm going to put my own outline on. So I'm going to turn that off. I can go to the next part of the design, which is still the fill, and it's got the outline on, so I'm going to turn it off, hit set. Okay, the next thing, this is the outside, this is the stitch that's going to put it together, and I want that to be a triple stitch. So I'm going to go into the line properties. I'm going to choose triple stitch, click OK, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the run pitch of the triple stitch, and I'm going to increase it to 1.20. And why did I pick that number? After you've played in Design Center for a while and you stitch things out, you'll find the settings that are pleasing to you, and that's the setting that's pleasing to me. So I'm going to hit set. And the next thing is this is the Peltex Tack down stitch, and it's set at a zigzag. That's the default. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to make that a running stitch, and I'm going to change it to red just so that I know that that's the running stitch, or I'm sorry, the tack down stitch. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to go and I'm going to change the run pitch of that just because it's a tack down stitch, so I'm going to make it a little bit longer in length. I'm going to hit set. Now I can go and I can preview it, and I didn't save it. I just haven't saved it yet. And you can see this is how the fill is going to be. I can go back and I can change the fill. Whoops. And this is the fill. If I wanted to space it out more, I could space it out more, or I could space it closer together. Actually, I kind of like it at 100%, so I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, so basically my little tree is done. I would save it. I would go back and I could save it. I could save it either in the memory of the machine, or I could save it onto a USB or in the memory of the machine. I've already got it saved because I've done this earlier, so I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to go into, once I hit set, I'm going to be ready to stitch it out. You're going to notice the machine, my Design Center, will choose the stitch out order however it wants to. First the fill is stitching, then it's the outline, then it's the tack down. That's not how I want it to stitch. I'm going to need the tack down to stitch first, then the fill, then the outline, the final stitching. And I'll do that by advancing and reversing when I start to stitch my design out. So as soon as I leave this screen, I can't make any more changes, and I'm going to be in the embroidery side of the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and hit embroidery. And to start the tree, I've already started it, and what I did was I hooped tearaway stabilizer, and I put a piece of Peltex on top of my stabilizer, a large piece that covered the inside of the hoop. This Peltex is, the number is Pelon 70. It's a sew-in heavy stabilizer. This is what's giving my tree some body to it. So I went ahead and I laid that on top of the stabilizer, the tearaway, and I advanced down. I had to go down to the tack down stitch, and I stitched that out. And then after it stitched the Peltex down, then I took my scissors and trimmed around it. I've already trimmed the two sides, and now I'm going to trim this other side. And you can see how easily I can just run my scissors along the edge. So now I have the tree, the Peltex stitched down, and I took a piece of white glitter felt and I laid that on top. Now, since I've already done this, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the hoop on the machine. And the next step I need to stitch, I needed to get to the fill. So let me go ahead and put the foot down, and I'm going to go ahead and let it stitch the fill stitch. And while it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and I'll talk about the little tree some more. This one I did in metallic thread, and after it stitched, I added little crystals to it. My husband found some branches in the yard and just kind of cut them to different heights. It doesn't matter. There's no specific height you need to cut it to. And he drilled a hole in the top of it. This one I haven't glued in yet. He just drilled a hole in the top of it. The size, or one size, the next drill bit larger than the size of the dowel rod. Now my dowel rod is long enough to go about a ½ an inch down inside of this tree branch, and it goes the whole length of the tree. And I painted it white. Instead of using a tree branch, you could use one of the small flower pots and fill it with styrofoam, and you would leave your dowel rod a little bit longer. You could just stick it down in there, maybe add some moss to the top of it. I think the tree branches look pretty cute. So that's how the tree's going to look when it's done. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let this stitch out the fill, and I'll see if my daughter-in-law Jen can see if there are any questions. Jen, are there any questions so far? Well, while Jen's looking for some questions, I did do this in, let's see, 6 different sizes. I've created a 4x4 tree, a 5x7, a 6x10, a 7x12, 8x12, and 9.5 by 14 inch tree. They all have varying little quilt patterns on them, the quilting fills, that are built in right off the Dream Machine. Now I am doing this on the Brother Dream Machine. If you don't have a Dream Machine, you can maybe apply this to the type of machine that you have. I am going to have these files available on my website. Brother has given me permission to distribute these files. They will only be in PES format. The 9.5 by 14 inch tree will only be in PE Design 10. So if you have a lower version of PE Design, you won't be able to open up the 9.5 by 14 inch tree. If you have other software, you can bring the files in and convert them to whatever format you need, or your machine might be able to read other formats, but they will only be in PES format, so please don't email me for other formats. Jen, did you find any questions? Yes, I did. You can bring these files into PE Design, and you know, I'm not sure about resizing them. If they will be, if they will resize nice. No, these are done right off of the embroidery machine, right off of my design center on the Brother Dream Machine. Now I did bring them into PE Design, and that's where I saved all of the files. So if you don't have version, like I said, the 9.5 by 14 inch tree is probably the only one that you won't be able to open unless you have PE Design 10. The fill stitch is almost done stitching. No, you can change the fill to any size that you want, any spacing that you want. Some of the other trees that I did, maybe if the camera can come back up and go to the trees that I did, you can see that there are some different fills in the trees. And I did use the hot fix crystals on the trees. That's not necessary, but it really does add some sparkle to them. They have some varying fills on them, and all the fills came from the Brother Dream machine. These are not fills that I digitized. They are fills directly out of the off the Dream machine. My Dream machine has been updated to the latest update, meaning the update that just came out in August, and the fills are built in on the machine. These are really pretty. And using this felt, maybe, I don't know if you can see it, how it kind of raises up the, see how it kind of raises it up a little bit? But you can change the spacing. You do whatever is pleasing to your eye. So I could definitely have changed the spacing on this tree if I wanted to. I just happen to like how that looked. What type of metallic thread? Let's see. I can't, I think the metallic thread that I used, I think it was called, a brand called Fuji or Fufu. I've had the thread for a very long time, but any metallic thread will work. All right, the tree is done now. The fill is done off the tree. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not done. I thought it was. But there's going to be something that I need to tell you about how this is going to stitch out. There is a PDF that's going to be in the download on my website, and it's going to refer you to this video, because this video, these are the instructions. There are no written instructions for how to stitch these out. And as I said, the machine determines the stitch order. So you saw that I had to advance down to get the tree to stitch out the tack down first. Okay, so now the fill is done. Okay, let me clip that thread right there where it started. But the fill is done, and now we have to do the outline stitch. But first, I have to go to the back side of the hoop. I'm going to take another piece of, I'm using white glitter craft felt, and put it on the back side of the hoop. I'm going to tape it down, just so it doesn't move on me. I'm going to put it back on the machine. Now you're going to notice how this is going to stitch. And now all this stitching this is determined by my design center. You can do a lot of things in my design center, but it's not full-blown software. So as this starts to stitch, what it's going to do is it's going to start here at the top of the tree, come down the side, but I had to have a hole, an opening, to put the dowel rod in. So I'm going to watch, and as it stitches down the side, it starts to come across the bottom. I'm actually going to stop the machine when it gets near the center here, because I have to leave an opening. So we're going to go ahead and start, and you can see it's going to come down the right hand side of the tree, and when it gets down here and it starts to stitch along the bottom and it gets near the center, I'm going to stop the machine, then I'm going to advance it so that then it starts to stitch here and continues on, because I need an opening to stick the dowel rod in. And I couldn't do it on in my design center, because if I would have created a hole right here, then I could not get it to fill, because there would have been an opening. So I'm getting very close. So now I'm stopping. I'm going to cut my thread. I'm going to advance 10 stitches over here. I just pressed the plus 10. I'm going to put the foot down, and then I'm going to let it finish stitching. Now it's doing a triple stitch, so it should it's kind of a locking stitch, so it will lock and the stitches won't pull out. So as soon as it's done stitching this, the tree is going to be finished and I'll be taking it out of the hoop. The designs will be free on my website. When this video is over, I'm going to activate the link. Okay, now the tree is finished stitching, and again, the only instructions you're going to have are this video, so you will have to refer back to the video to stitch out the tree. So doesn't that look really pretty? Look at the fill on that. Okay, so I'm ready to take it out of the hoop, and I'm just going to tear the stabilizer away. This is tear away stabilizer, and I'm tearing it away close to the that outline stitching all the way around. And then I will use a straight edge ruler, which I don't happen to have handy. Let me grab it real quick and you can look at the pretty fill. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my straight edge ruler and a rotary cutter, and I'm going to trim it 1/8 inch away from the stitching all the way around. So I'm going 1/8 inch past the stitching. And remember, the Peltex that I used, whoops, I didn't get that. The Peltex that I used it's Pellon, and it's number 70. So it's Pellon number 70, which is the sew-in Peltex. And that's what I'm using to make the tree nice and stiff. You want this stiff. If you don't use something nice and stiff inside, then your tree is going to be floppy. Okay, so here's the tree, and it does have an opening. So let me grab my, well, I can't take that dowel rod out of that one. But down here you will see there is an opening, and that's where I would stick the dowel rod in. And I also glued it a little bit. Right down here I put glue. I just kind of, before I put it down inside the tree, I just put my glue gun, the tip of it, down in here and pressed it so that it the dowel rod is in there really tight. I put glue here and stick it into my little branch, and then I like to take the trees, and with that Peltex you can kind of bend them a little bit, just curve them just slightly, so it's got like a little curved shape to it. Like I said, you can add the crystals, and that's optional, but that's how easy it was for me to create the trees directly in my design center. And I can go back to my design center here, go back to the home button. It's my design center, and I created it all in this part of the Dream Machine. So here's my little tree. There are all the other little trees over there. And I want to wish everyone a happy holiday, and I will be posting the link to the trees as soon as this video is over. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.